Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I'm Tiff and welcome back to a third video review in 3 weeks, and this time it is my 2012 Jaguar XKR-S. Now, we've owned this car for 2 years and strangely I haven't done a video review of it yet, so that's the purpose of today's video, and we're answering one question, which is it still a good purchase in 2024? Does it still hold up? Hope you enjoy. Normally I begin these videos with an interior and exterior tour, but we did that already in my first video with the car. You can see all of that and more in my XKR-S playlist. Long story short, vast comfy GT. So moving on to the driving impressions then, the first thing you think is it is quite a heavy car. It is about 1850 kilos with fluids, but on the flip side the braking is superb. It's got the jig steel brakes and they do handle the weight really well, even from a really high speed, so that is a plus point. If I'm being critical, you've got to say that the car is traction limited. It does have 295 section rear tyres, but it is a struggle sometimes to put the power down, and particularly on a wet surface the car really doesn't like it. That being said, on a dry day you really can put the power down. Now, the XKR-S, or this particular car anyway, is 12 years old this year, and you do notice that in its handling characteristics it does feel quite old school. It's got a really slow steering ratio, so you have to put in quite a lot of lock for it to go around these fairly shallow bends, you'll notice. And feedback wise, okay, it's got lovely hydraulic steering that does give you a decent amount of feedback, but it doesn't exactly feel like it's alive. Again, that might be a symptom of there's quite a lot of weight that it has to deal with. So the flip side though of it being an old school car that was always designed to be a good GT is that it is a tremendous GT. It's great for long motorway journeys, the sound insulation is fantastic, and I've got to be honest, the ride quality is brilliant. It doesn't matter what mode you're in, drive, or if you have it turned up to dynamic like I do constantly, it always feels extremely comfy, as I demonstrate by going over the cat's eyes there and almost hitting a sheep. It's a pleasure to drive, and it gets an extra score bump for feel and refinement, so for platform and handling I score the RS 7 out of 10. The car sometimes follows cambers because of the tyre width, but it's really the mass here that stops the RS from getting a much better score. And speaking of dynamic mode then, that takes us into the performance section of the review. And the first thing I'd say to prospective buyers is, if you're taking this for a test drive, if you're driving it for the first time, immediately put it in dynamic mode, because it keeps the valves open on the exhaust. It does transform really the feel of the car, I would say. It feels a lot more responsive, particularly on throttle. It feels a lot more responsive. That of course gives you great access then to the fact that the car has just got a tremendous amount of power. 542 brake horsepower. 542 is a 39 brake horsepower increase over the XKR, and that enables the RS to go from 0 to 62 in about 4.5 seconds. I think Jaguar quotes 4.4, and it tops out at 186 miles an hour, which I think is an increase on the XKR from 175. That's why the XKR-S has got a 190 mile an hour speedo, and 186 is about 300, well I know it is, 300 kilometers an hour. I suppose the last point on performance then is, when I first picked up this car, I said it felt like a muscle car as much as it did a Super GT car essentially. And I don't think my view's changed on that. It feels like the British equivalent of a muscle car, something that's a bit point and squirt. Okay, it's good in the corners, but it's not great, as we touched on in handling, just because of the mass. So, careful through the corners, and then you can blast it down the straights. We are on the Black Mountain Road here, so I can only do 40 miles an hour, which is a little bit frustrating. So, to conclude the performance section of this review then, it's tremendously fast. You can use it in a straight line, which, let's be honest, is where we're all going to use it. It's not really the car that you take on too many track days, and it is good enough in the corners. I'm desperately trying not to be biased here, but the truth is performance, and specifically meaty supercharged V8 grunt, is the XKR-S's party trick. I give it a score of 7.5 out of 10. Obviously there are faster cars out there, but remember it's still got 542 brake horsepower and an earth-bending 680 Newton meters of torque. Now, having concluded performance, that moves us on to our last real section then, which is Dailyability. Now, as I've said in previous videos, if you're using like the Doug DeMuro Dailyability, he's got several different factors going into that. On this channel, we're just reviewing, on the whole, is it a good car to daily? Can you take several people out in it? Does it have a big boot? Is it economical? Is it cheap to run and insure and use every day? Now, the simple answer is, it's a halfway house. Obviously, it's very expensive to run and insure and service and keep going. However, it is actually brilliant and dailyable. We've taken our friends out in this and we have had 2 passengers in the back. Okay, there ain't much leg room and you wouldn't want to be an adult, particularly a tall adult, in the back for much of the journey at all. And you've got to say it's not particularly economical when it comes to fuel efficiency. On a long run, okay, you're getting something like 28, 29 miles to the gallon as we get on the motorway. But if you're going to drive this as it's intended, you're probably going to get something like 23, 24 miles to the gallon, or a little bit less. But otherwise, in terms of practicality, okay, it's exceptionally comfortable, it's great for long journeys, it's fine for commuting. I dailied this to work while the Abarth was having work done on it, and it's got a great big boot, so you can carry, well, more than 2 people's luggage in it, which, let's be honest, you're probably not even going to need to. So due to the pretty rubbish back seats, high running costs and vast size at nearly 10 square metres of car, the XKR-S loses many daily score points. It makes up for it a bit with a huge boot, great comfort and its general ease of drivability, but not enough to hit that critical 5 out of 10 score, and it achieves only a 4 out of 10 from me. Now for the final and totally opinion-based section, the Tiff Score. In this section I rate how much I personally desire to own the car I'm reviewing, and shocker, I give the RS 9.5 out of 10. Funny that. The RS was one of my dream cars as a teenager, and ownership has been a rare case of meeting your hero. It's been almost exactly how I'd hoped it would be. The prohibitive costs involved with keeping it going are really the only thing preventing this from me giving it a perfect score, and being a permanent member of my garage. This is the part of the video where I become irresistible to women and place my POV GoPro camera on my forehead to give you guys a POV experience. Enjoy! And not only have I strapped a camera to my face, I've also strapped one right in front of the exhaust so you guys can hear the sound as we go. So to answer the question I asked at the start of the video then, is the XKR-S still a good proposition in 2024? Now, for all of the reasons that I gave in the review part of this video, which is it's a fantastically powerful muscle car, it's a great GT, it is dailyable, it's still enjoyable, and for me personally, it's a car that was one of my heroes growing up. I would say yes, it is a good proposition. Now, road tax in the UK for an XKR-S in 2024 is £735, and that is one of the factors behind me putting this car up for sale. So I am selling the RS, as I see a speed bump that I didn't initially spot. Oops. One of the factors behind me putting the car up for sale is road tax is now £735. And I think that's a bit stupid. The UK tax system at the moment is ridiculous. When you can buy a Jaguar F-Type with the same engine with £190 of road tax. So yes, tax is a big reason behind me wanting to sell this car. However, yes, it is still a fantastic proposition in 2024. Really think of another car other than perhaps the F-Type that does as much as this does for the money. And then when you look at the F-Type, they are a different proposition. That doesn't have back seats, the boot isn't as capacious, but obviously it is a much sportier car, and I'll admit that this is probably an older person's car, and the F-Type is a much more appealing to a younger driver. But in summary, yes, still suitable in 2024, and it is probably a shame to see the back of it. It's been a fantastic car for 2 years, but it is just time for something new. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you enjoyed this new review format that we're doing for the last few videos, and I'll see you on the next one. Ciao! The RS gets a strong 70% overall score, so you won't be surprised to hear that I think it is absolutely worth owning, even if it is one of those cars that you only keep for a year just to have got the urge for one out of your system.